City Manager Nadia DeFuria. We have our City Clerk, Jason Prevost, and there's Daryl Levine, making sure this all runs smoothly. Before we start question period, I would just like to make a few comments. First of all, to members of the Jewish community, I want to wish you all a healthy, happy Shana Tova. We should all be well, and we should enjoy the holidays, and may this year be an easier year for all of us. As we all know, the numbers for COVID-19 are increasing. Today, the number is 276. My message to everyone is that we all are a part of the puzzle. We can all do our best to keep the numbers down, which means following the rules, which means wearing masks appropriately, covering your nose and your mouth, washing your hands regularly, keeping physical distancing. And when we do congregate, try to do it outdoors. Whether it's for prayer, whether it's for celebration, we want to do it outdoors. And we have to do it realistically, meaning if we want our kids to be able to stay in school, and we all want our kids to be able to stay in school, we need to take precautions elsewhere, whether it's in our homes and who we have in our homes, whether it's when we go to synagogue, whether it's when we attend a wedding or another special event. We have to be cognizant of the importance that we do the right thing. We don't want to be those 80 people that went to a karaoke bar and all got COVID, or the one guy passed it to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy. We don't want to be there. So it's up to each one of us to do what we can to protect each other. So when residents speak to me, it's a tough job. It's a tough job to balance. You know, we want people to enjoy their life and we want them to stay safe. We don't want to be in the situation that Israel is in now, where they're being shut down from Friday until October the 8th. And we hope that we won't get there. I know the provincial government is monitoring the situation. I, in fact, received a call from Dr. Kaiser of the Health Authority on Friday, and we were discussing all the different issues. And he said, you know, his message is for us to get that information out, that people need to do the right thing. Just because you're allowed to be 250 doesn't mean you should be 250. It's very different sitting in a movie theater, not speaking and watching a movie, and doing other activities that require breath and the potential for particles to be passed from person to person. So be cognizant of where you are and what you're doing, because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting others. And we still live in a city with the highest percentage of seniors, and we want to keep them all healthy. So with that being said, je veux vous dire Shana Tova, et je veux dire en français que tout le monde doit faire le nécessaire pour la santé de vous et tous les autres, de respecter tous les règlements pour assurer que le COVID-19 reste en contrôle, et on peut le faire ensemble. La ville de Côte Saint-Luc était un exemple pour tout le Québec de ce qu'on peut faire. On a fait les règlements avant le Québec, on a fait les règlements qui étaient appliqués par le Québec après nous, parce que c'était des choses qui étaient nécessaires, pas seulement pour les résidents du Côte Saint-Luc, mais pour tous les résidents du Québec. So together we will continue to be leaders, and we'll do that, each one of us, by doing the right thing. We don't want to be the epicenter. We want to be the place where it's the safest, and it's up to you to make it so. So with that being said, I'm going to ask for the questions to be read by our city clerk, Jason Prevost, and we will move forward from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we get to the questions, I'm going to quickly just remind everybody of the rules for question period.
With that being said, I'm going to ask for the questions to be read by our city clerk.
Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so just to go quickly again through the rules for question period. So residents can submit questions by email at the following email, questionperiod@côtesaintluc.org until 5 p.m. on the day of council meetings. And the questions will subsequently be answered during the live feed. As for second question period, we're going to open the YouTube live chat at the end of the agenda, and residents can submit their questions by writing their question and their name, and the items must be related to the agenda. Je vais répéter en français rapidement. Les résidents peuvent soumettre leurs questions par courriel au courriel suivant, période de questions @côtesaintluc.org jusqu'à 17 h le jour de la réunion du conseil. Le conseil répondra ensuite aux questions. En ce qui concerne la deuxième période de questions, nous allons ouvrir le live chat sur YouTube à la fin de la rencontre et les questions doivent être en lien avec les items sur l'ordre du jour. Okay, I'm going to get to the first question. So the first question is from Arthur Newman. A speed bump is required on Robinson Avenue before Parkview. This will slow down traffic from Côte Saint-Luc Road. Cars come off Côte Saint-Luc Road to beat the light on the corner of Côte Saint-Luc Road and Cavendish. This also will make cars slow down when children are walking to Merton School. If done, the speed bump could be in front of the house located at 5503 Robinson Avenue. Please take this into consideration.
Thank you. Okay, so the engineering division has confirmed that the traffic committee will be reviewing that stretch of Robinson and the possibility of adding a speed bump next season. So thank you for that request.
Okay, we're going to go to the next question. David Schwartzman. Can the city adopt steps to have hedges on private property cut back when necessary so that strollers, tricycles, and wheelchairs can safely utilize the sidewalks instead of having to take the streets? Many hedges currently encroach on the sidewalk, menacing the eyes of babies and strollers and impeding the passage of children and adults and sidewalk plows. The height of hedges at stop signs is a related safety issue to be addressed. Not all vehicles are high-riding SUVs.
So when we notice that they're overgrown shrubs, we receive a complaint alerting us of the problem, and we ask our public security agents to visit the property and advise the residents to have their shrubs cut. If that doesn't work, we send out a letter. But generally, we do get cooperation. So with respect to your address, we will take note and make sure that we follow up at that location to inspect the shrubs, and if they require trimming, we'll ensure that that gets done. Thank you for your question.
Okay, next question from Arnold Cohen. A citywide publicity campaign and mailbox notices specific to affected households should be the first step to improve the following situation. This year, more than ever, I would expect that tempos would be needed given all the stranded snowbirds, and it is not equitable that certain zones were fast-tracked while others have been refused because of a small number of petitioners or objectors in certain zones. None of the safety or property value concerns have arisen over the last 2 years, and tempos should be permitted across the entire city. Will council agree to revisit this issue before this winter and consider allowing all citizens to erect a tempo if they so choose?
Well, first of all, Mr. Cohen, I want to thank you for being a leader on this issue. If it wasn't for you, I don't know how many people in the city would have tempos at all. So thank you for your leadership on this issue. Now, as you know, new rules came into effect on November the 1st, 2018, following feedback from residents through the rezoning process. And the result was that some zones are permitted tempos and unfortunately others are not. But after that, we commissioned a léger poll to do a mail and phone survey in April of 2019 in the areas where it is not allowed where they're not allowed tempos, in order to get a better sense of the situation. The results in those zones, in the zones where we did not go to referendum because enough people signed the register, were in those zones 60% against and 40% in favor. Now, that was April 2019. The situation could change now, but that was the results of that survey because we were still trying to feel the pulse of the individuals who live in those areas. Now, given that those zones showed opposition during the process of 2018 and the survey of 2019, we felt that, that's what the people wanted in those areas, but we're not totally convinced. We do realize that people are more sensitive based on COVID-19 and other considerations for the idea of tempos. And we're revisiting the idea. Council has looked at it, in fact, at the last in-committee meeting, and we've discussed ways in which we can feel the process out with the population in those areas to see if there is a willingness in those areas, because it is a process. It's a rezoning process like anything else. And what we did in 2018 worked really well for a lot of areas, but unfortunately it didn't work in a few. So we're going to see what we can do, but it's not closed. The issue is not closed. We move to a certain point and we'll see what else we can do. But as I said, I have to be completely transparent. Not only was it voted down by enough people signing the register, but the Leger poll that we did afterwards to feel the pulse of those districts came back 60% against. So perhaps now that people have seen tempos out in other areas and seen that they're not such an eyesore and that they provide a very good service for individuals, they'll soften their view and we will see what we can do in those areas. But it's very interesting that different areas of the city, and often it's based on the housing stock, have a different view of the importance of tempos. But it's not closed. We continue to look into the idea of expanding tempo use in our city because we know the benefits that it provides. Maitre Preva.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So next question is from Aline Smadja. We live in a condo and we would like to know what the protocol is regarding covering the face in condominiums in Côte Saint-Luc. Our administration is harassing people, is being harassed by the janitor and the doorman because they saw us on camera. And this happened while we were in a garage getting to the car. So the two questions are, do we have to cover our face in the condo by law, even if it is possible to apply the 2 meters? And are doorman and janitor allowed to spy on the condo owners?
Okay, so since the start of the pandemic, the rules from Quebec have changed over time, and the rules in Côte Saint-Luc were the first ones that came out with respect to face coverings. We adopted bylaw 2557 on June the 1st, 2020, well before the Quebec government, and our bylaw required face coverings in public areas, not in condos, not in apartment buildings. Signage was required and still is required in condos and apartment buildings, suggesting that face coverings should be worn in public, in areas, in common areas of condos and apartment buildings when physical distancing is not possible. The Quebec government law still does not require the wearing of face coverings in apartments and condos. And the logic behind that is when we implemented our law and our bylaw, we made the business owners responsible for enforcement, and Quebec started with that. We know recently they expanded it to being able to give fines to individuals, but they started with that approach as well. Because the whole issue with any of these safety measures is enforcement. How do you enforce it? And it's very difficult to enforce what goes inside a private building, not a public building. It's a private building. It's very hard for the police or public security or anybody else to get in there. The only people that really can enforce what's going on inside are the condo association. Are they allowed to? Condo associations are allowed to make their rules. If their rules are that you're supposed to wear a face covering, they can enforce their rules as long as you're a condo owner and you agree to be bound by the condo association rules. In terms of any harassment claims or of anything of that sort that you're making reference to, that would be a matter for you to report to the police. But you live in a condo and you're supposed to respect condo rules. These are not Quebec rules. They're not Côte Saint-Luc rules. And I certainly do encourage personally the wearing of face coverings in common areas wherever possible. And if I was walking into a condo or an apartment, I would certainly wear one, particularly if anybody else was around or I was entering an elevator. Okay, the next question.
Okay, the next question is from Molly Hilsenrath. Presently, Fleet is completely inundated during the morning rush, as is Westminster. With the probability of this major housing development on the northern end of Westminster, including Vincelli's property, how are you planning to deal with the major increase in traffic exiting and returning to Côte Saint-Luc during peak hours?
I don't know if it's a probability or not, as this project has not been approved by council, and PAC has addressed certain concerns. But if it should get approved in its present format or in a modified format, the public would be consulted and traffic analysis would be needed.
Okay. Yes, the next question is from Dave Lang. The resident raises two situations. The first item is that certain people who are driving a vehicle are crossing the center line to park on the wrong side of the street. This is done to simply have a conversation with someone on the sidewalk or to make a delivery or just to park. This has become much more prevalent and is not only illegal, but dangerous. I witnessed a near collision on my street as one of these vehicles departed, crossed the center line to join traffic, not realizing that there was already a fast approaching car in that lane. The second item is as follows. On Saturdays, certain people are walking in the road instead of on the sidewalk. A friend recounted last night as he was recently driving on Guelph and kindly asked a gentleman who was in the middle of the road to use the sidewalk for the safety of himself and his family, as well as that of cars that were driving. He was totally ignored and had to drive around him. I too have had to take a wide berth in my car to avoid pedestrians in the road. I don't feel drivers should have to move sometimes over the center line to avoid hitting pedestrians. I would hate to hear of injuries or fatalities due to either of these situations. I believe council has the responsibility to all citizens to deal with this as soon as possible.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Lang. I'm not sure if this is police issues or public security. It sounds more like traffic offenses that would be the responsibility of the police. However, I would say that you do see more people walking on the street, not only on the Saturday, but often because of COVID-19 and people are physically distancing. So you'll often see two people walking together, one on the sidewalk and one on the street, because they're supposed to keep the 6 feet distance, which does make it more difficult for cars. And we do ask drivers to be cognizant of the fact that people are walking in that way, which is not what we're used to. It's not what we're used to, but it's the new normal. It's the new normal to see people walking on the street 7 days a week. And we have to be careful because we certainly don't want an accident. But if there is an offense, traffic violation, you can always call Station 9 to report it at 514-280-0109, which is our local station. It's Station 9. So it's always the 0109 at the end of 280 for a traffic violation. But they are being more lenient with people walking on the street if it's for health safety. Maitre Prévost.
Yep. The next question is from Bila Aspler. I live at 6603 Fleet at the end of Robinson. There is a major problem with the subcontractor who clears the snow. Every year, starting with the first snowfall, our lawn is destroyed by the sidewalk cleaner going 3 feet into our lawn at the corner and at least 1 foot the entire length of the lawn. I've spoken numerous times to our city councillor, as well as public works and urban planning. They cannot explain why their subcontractor for one block in our area when the other streets here are cleaned by Côte Saint-Luc Public Works. The resident attached pictures of last winter's damages. I hope that this matter can be rectified before this winter. So that's the first matter. And the second matter relates to tempos. We have an extremely steep driveway that gets very icy and it is dangerous going up and coming down to get into our garage. I spoke to someone at urban planning who saw the problem. We would like a permit to put up a tempo. I'm appealing the council to take these two matters seriously.
Thank you. On the issue of tempos, I'm not going to repeat what I already said in response to Mr. Arnold Cohen. We're seeing what we can do. It's not an easy one. It's a zoning question. We'll see what can be done in your zone. With respect to the damages to your lawn, I've seen the pictures. I've had similar experiences. I'm at a corner as well, a corner street, and I often get these type of damages. Not always, some years are better than others, but we take responsibility as a city to repair these damages. So if these damages have not been repaired, please advise us, because we come around and either put new grass or put grass seed, depending on the severity of the problem. I'm looking at the pictures right now as we speak. So yeah, they are some clear indentations on your lawn from the contractor, which is not good. So I hope that those have been repaired. If they have not, please inform us so we could be aware to do what is required. It's a little late in the season. I hope they've been repaired, because it is our responsibility. Maître Prévost.
Okay, for the last two questions, I'm going to read them back to back because they deal with the same subject. So the first question is from Tanya Alfonsi. Following the last meeting where Mayor Brownstein addressed the issue of residential properties being used as residential purposes, announced there would be no more tolerance for a new situation. I would like to know, since the last council meeting, what steps have been taken by the city to address those residential properties that are currently being used for commercial, institutional, and/or schools? What does the city intend or plan to do with these illegal uses of residential properties? The citizens of Côte Saint-Luc deserve transparency on the issue so they may plan the future accordingly. Finally, the mayor made aware of several hundred signatures of Côte Saint-Luc residents collected on the petition to stop the illegal use of residential properties for non-residential purposes. To this effect, the petition requests a consultation. Will the city hold a special meeting to discuss the issue before any proposed solution, as this issue has solicited much attention and deserves a special meeting before politicians try to solve the issue without consulting their citizens? I'm going to read out the next question from Heather Treston. Do you have an update concerning dwellings that are zoned residential being used for other purposes, such as places of worship, schools, and dormitories in Côte Saint-Luc?
Treston and Ms. Alfonsi, thank you for your questions. And also I want to thank you, Ms. Alfonsi, for meeting with me in Trudeau Park, where we discussed the issue, and I appreciate your insight and your explanation of how this affects you. And it's not an easy one. And we've made a lot of progress in terms of staff working on this. We've met with experts in municipal law in terms of lawyers. We have a private consulting firm who specializes in urban planning, zoning issues of this type. And our urban planning department has worked with our legal department to come up with a plan. The final steps, which are being recommended to council, will be presented to them next Monday. And depending on what council decides, based on the recommendations being given, we will be consulting the public, and the public will be extremely involved in this process because it affects the public. And we want the situation to be one where there's clarity, and individuals who live in residential zones know that they'll safely live in residential zones with clarity, meaning they're near a religious institution or they're not. Going forward in the future and in the present. So the issue is being taken very seriously. I say that I've attended at least 7 meetings since the last public meeting. As I said, either with lawyers or with urban planning or with our urban planning department, our city management and our legal department. And we are getting close to presenting something first to council, and then, which will be next Monday, and then to the public as soon as council agrees on the procedure. Are there any other questions?
That was the end of the questions.
Okay. So if there's no further questions, we have to go to the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. Don't do that. Where was it? Okay, where did my agenda go? No. I have to, okay, I'm just gonna go back to my folder. Sorry about that. Public council meeting, here we go. All right. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, and I'll go to the minutes of A, B, and C, which is August 10th at 8 p.m., August 20th at 6 p.m., and August 24th at 6 p.m. Councillor Cohen.
I so move, Mr. Mayor. So move that the minutes from August 10th, can I do them all at once?
Sure.
August 10th, the meetings of August 10th, August 20th, and August 24th be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. We move to business arising from the council minutes. So then we move to item number 4, which is the departmental reports. Item number 4, Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is my audio okay?
Perfect.
Excellent. I hereby table the monthly departmental reports.
Moved by Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion? Departmental reports discussion. Councillor Cohen. And then
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to, I know I brought it up at the last meeting, but I'm going to bring it up at every meeting until we have a vaccine and COVID is over. I know we cannot control the population of Quebec, Canada, United States. Well, forget about United States with the leader they have and the world. But I feel that I've been influential with some of my own constituents in terms of wearing their masks properly. And I just want to remind everybody to please wear your masks properly. If it's a medical mask, throw it out after you wear it once. If it's a cotton reusable mask, wash it every night and put it in the dryer. And if whatever mask you're wearing, please cover your nose. Don't walk around just covering your mouth because you're not doing anything. You may as well not wear a mask and accept one of those $400 to $9,000 fines from the government. That's my PSA. I just want to mention that I formed a district advisory committee in District 2, something I've been working on for some time. We had our first meeting via Zoom with Beatrice Newman from Public Works. It was a very beneficial exercise, and we'll be doing more of that in the coming months. And finally, the Côte Saint-Luc Cats Committee had to cancel our concert, our fundraising concert in October due to COVID. We are doing a virtual variety show with some nice little angles. Daryl Levine is helping us put it all together. Our committee remains as busy as ever, COVID or not, in terms of rescuing homeless cats. So we desperately need the support. We're certainly seeking donations from anybody who wants to make a donation made out to the city of Côte Saint-Luc. But we are going to be having with this variety show, which will go live on YouTube on October the 22nd, we will be having a raffle. We're getting some fantastic prizes, and that will be advertised and announced in the coming weeks. And that will be basically our fundraiser for this year. So I look forward to sharing more information with everybody on that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, Councillor Cohen. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start on the finance side. The second installment was due on the extended date of August 28th. The city has received roughly $9.9 million in taxation payments during the month of August. All those residents who had originally post-dated their check in May for the second installment, those checks were all canceled. And just a reminder to residents, if you missed it, please try to pay it in as your second installment as quickly as possible to avoid any interest payment. With regard to the holidays and COVID, I just want to mention that I hope, well, first I want to wish all those that celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova, a sweet new year. And I ask those residents to exercise as much caution as possible. We know that people want to be outside to pray, but we ask you to please do your best to try to do it in an outdoor atmosphere. Try to maintain physical distance, and please wear a mask as much as possible because we want to avoid a second wave, which we don't want to come following the high holidays. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. quick SPVM monthly report confirms that we are reducing some of the incidents here in Côte Saint-Luc. So still one of the greatest city on the island of Montreal to live in terms of safety. Just to kind of reiterate what the mayor said today at the beginning of this meeting. So Quebec announced or reported 279 cases yesterday. And although the situation is still quote unquote under control, we can't take any risks. And
I think Councillor Sabag is frozen unless he comes back. So when he does come back, we will give him
phenomenon that I think is really important for us to kind of keep an eye on. And I want to speak to every single principal, every single person attending schools that go into recess, that do not think that it's important, even during recess, even during lunchtime, going out with your friends, to not social distance. It's unbelievable today to see the young folks walking side by side, closer than I've ever seen in months. And so I'm pleading for people to be responsible within the schools, this is going to be an issue. And I want everybody to understand that folks like Councillor Early is doing the best he can within his own school. And at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that we can respect each other. And it starts with the people in schools that just, have to take things seriously. So it's up to the folks, and we have to start as a city also to possibly, and we've talked about this before this council meeting, to possibly start a campaign or initiative to get people sensitized to this. The young folks are not taking this seriously enough. On that note, I want to wish everybody, all the residents, my friends, family, council members, and everybody here watching this council meeting a very healthy and prosperous Shana Tova.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. And yes, those were very important words to listen to our kids. I've seen the same problem. Lots of kids squished all together walking on the streets from recess or lunch. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The library is still open, and lots of great activities are available. There's it's called Quarantine. It's a virtual program for teens on Thursdays. There's virtual reading buddies for the return to school. And there's a lot of virtual book talks and reviews available by phone if you don't have the internet. And if you have family that doesn't have, then you can please let them know that the library has an enormous amount of available activities during these times. On the engineering dossier, staff has been dealing this summer with almost 100% increase in permit requests over regular years. And one of the major projects that we're working on this year is the building envelope for City Hall. We've removed essentially all of the bricks. So the demolition is done, and now the reconstruction will be starting soon. I want to reiterate a Shana Tova Umetuka to council, all of the residents, all of our friends and family out there. Stay safe, and Shana Tova Umetuka.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Anybody else with Councillor Kajavsky, and then Councillor Ben-Isri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just be very brief. I'll reiterate what my fellow members of council said. Shana Tova to everyone. Very, very briefly, in Parks and Recreation, registration began, open today for fall activities. I was at the aquatic center after washing my hands, wearing my mask over my nose, Councillor Cohen, to register both my children for group swimming lessons. So I would say normally that I'll be seeing you at the ACC, but I will not be, because now group swimming lessons are a drop-off activity because parents can no longer wait on the pool deck. So I guess for those parents who will be partaking, I will see you perhaps outside the ACC if you want to chat from a distance while my kids are in lessons on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor Kaczynski. Councillor Ben-Isri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to report on Public Works on August 23rd. The big drop-off took place and it was the drive-through style. Despite the rainy weather, 185 residents came by to drop off electronics, hazardous waste, and documents to shred. So thank you to all the team of Public Works. J'aimerais profiter de cette occasion pour souhaiter à toute la communauté juive de Côte Saint-Luc une année remplie de douceur, de santé et d'amour. C'est important, rester en sécurité et prudent durant cette période de fête. Important de respecter les directives de la santé publique, garder la distanciation, lavez-vous les mains souvent, le port du masque. Stay safe, all the best, and Shana Tova to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Ben-Isri. Is there anybody else? Councillor Berku.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Maire. I was just looking at the permits, and in fact, following what Councillor Torgman said, and the permit fees are fairly high this year, and not the fees are high, but that we've raised quite a bit of fees because people are doing a lot of renovations. They're doing a lot of modifications, renovations, interior, exterior, and this is all good for the community. The total value of the construction to date is over $11 million of construction. So that's pretty much all in renovations, and there's some major modifications and renovations. So that's good news. And I also want to wish everyone Shana Tova. And I want to also say that we have tried our very best. On a travaillé et je dois saluer le conseiller Ben-Isri parce qu'il fait un travail de relation avec toutes les communautés religieuses. On a travaillé avec toutes les communautés, Tanya Abramovich et les membres de la sécurité publique pour faire en sorte de rendre sécuritaires les lieux de culte qui vont offrir des prières à l'intérieur, à l'extérieur. We want to do it all, but try and do it, like everyone says, safely. So inside, outside, as much as possible outside. And I want to thank everyone on the staff and Councillor Ben-Isri for helping to coordinate all that. And I hope that it's going to be a healthy and a happy and a safe new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berku. I too want to thank you, Councillor Ben-Isri. I've been on those meetings with you and staff and our public security, Jean-Marc Dubois, and we've had many meetings with the police and with the SIM, and it's been quite the challenge, but the goal is being achieved. We're finding ways for people to enjoy the holidays safely. And we're asking the community to be tolerant and realize that we're going to be having a lot of outdoor prayer, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's safer not only for those participating, but it's safer for you, for everyone in our city. And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work by Councillor Ben-Isri and by all the leadership in the Jewish community, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be safe because we're working with all the authorities to make sure that we have the best safety in our city. So thank you very much, Councillor Ben-Isri.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Berku.
And now we will move on to item number 5, which is the library. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Que le règlement intitulé Règlement 2539-2 amendant le règlement 2539 intitulé Règlement 2539 pour consolider les tarifs existants de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc afin de modifier les tarifs reliés à la bibliothèque publique Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc, soit et est par la présente adopté et numéroté 2539-2.
Proposé par le conseiller Torjman, appuyé par le conseiller Benizri. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions?
This is a resolution just to regulate the new tariffs. We do this on a regular basis, the tariffs for the library.
Thank you, Councillor Torjman. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and we move to item number 6, financial services, resolution to approve disbursements for August 2020. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of August 1st, 2020 to August 31st, 2020 for a total amount of $8,991,440.68 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer Certificate number 20-0086 dated September 2nd, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion? Councillor Erdely.
So just to explain, normally the disbursements are about $3 million. So this one is just, well, almost $9 million. And the biggest chunk of this is over $5 million for a bond repayment. This was adopted at last month's public meeting. And basically what it was is a refinancing of a loan. Just like a resident would when they get a mortgage. Let's say you get a 25-year mortgage. Every 5 years you have to renew your mortgage. The city works in a similar way. So every 5 years we renew our bonds or we renew our loans. So that accounts for just over $5 million. And then the other two large payments, one is for our water works, and the other is for the renovations that are being done on City Hall, one of the payments for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. And now we move to item number 7, human resources, 7A, Councillor Burku. The building inspector.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. Merci. This is to, yeah, here we go. The Côte Saint-Luc Council ratifies the appointment of, hang on, I can't read, of Erwin Lewden as a temporary building inspector auxiliary white collar position in the Urban Development Department, effective from July 13th, 2020 to October 30th, 2020. The Treasurer Certificate number 20-0088 dated September 3rd, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion?
Simply to confirm the appointment of Erwin Lewden as a temporary building inspector effective July 13th, because we had 2 inspectors that are on partial leave, so he's replacing them until October.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item 7B, Councillor Kajowski, Parks and Recreation, promotion of a manager of community development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the promotion of Ryan Nemiroff to the position of Manager of Community Development, a permanent management position effective February 24th, 2020. The Treasurer Certificate number 20-0087 dated September 3rd, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Sibag. Any discussion?
I'll be very brief. It's always been my pleasure to work with Ryan on Dramatic Society, on other recreation mandates. He's well liked by his peers, and congratulations to him on his promotion.
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure when it was my portfolio as City Councillor, Parks and Recreation. I also very much always enjoyed working with Ryan. And I want to congratulate you, Ryan, if you're watching, for all your great work at Parks and Rec. Councillor Cohen, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I wanted to congratulate 2 of my constituents, Erwin Lewden and Ryan Nemiroff. Ryan Nemiroff, who is still probably the youngest person living on Rembrandt Avenue, and But he's a stalwart, and we appreciate all the hard work he's done over the years through thick and thin at recreation, and well deserving. So congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item C. Item C, Councillor Kajewski, it's also Parks and Recreation, swim team coaches.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the contract renewals for Linda Babbins, Javier Cuevas, and Laurence Carrier as Côte Saint-Luc swim team coaches, and Sarah Yamani as a Côte Saint-Luc youth swim team coach. Each of the aforementioned contracts are fixed-term management contracts, and details are stipulated on the attached list entitled Renewal of Coach Contracts, Management Fixed-Term Contracts. That Treasurer Certificate number 20-0089, dated September 3rd, 2020, has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajewski, seconded by Councillor. Who'd like to second it? Councillor Sabag. Okay, any discussion?
It's self-explanatory. It's the renewal of our world-class swim team coaches, both youth and non-youth.
They're excellent, and I'm glad to have them. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? We are carried unanimously. We move to item D, which is Councillor Kajewski. It's also Parks and Recreation for Julie Leduc.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the status change of Julie Leduc's position as the Aquatics Coordinator from contract management position to permanent management effective August 10th, 2020.
Moved by Councillor Kajewski, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
Again, another congratulations to Julie, who's also very, very well liked and an excellent manager in aquatics. I mean, she's been fantastic whenever I've had a suggestion for improvements to make to aquatics on scheduling. I mean, she does it all. So congratulations to Julie.
Thank you. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Carried unanimously. We move to legal services. And now we are going to appoint Councillor Mitch Kajewski as the Maire Suppléant of the City of Côte Saint-Luc from October 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. And for all those watching who may not know, it doesn't mean I'm going on vacation. What it means is that in the event that the mayor is ever not able to perform his duties, there's Mitch Kajewski, another Mitch, to take over from Mitch, and the city keeps on running. So he's there. We always have a pro mayor. Every 3 months it changes for alphabetically. So who's going to be moving that? Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Councillor Mitch Kajewski is and shall be named Maire Suppléant of the City of Côte Saint-Luc effective October 1st, 2020 up until December 31st, 2020 inclusively, and further that the aforementioned Councillor Kajewski shall have and may exercise the power of the mayor when the said mayor is absent or unable to perform the duties of his office.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Cohen, I think. Councillor Cohen, any discussion? Okay, so it was explained. All in favor? David, Councillor Torchman, all in favor? Carried unanimously. And then we move to the next item, which is 8B. Councillor Burkett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So whereas on May 10th, 2002, Immeuble Canadian Pacific Inc. filed an action by way of declaration against the City of Montreal, successor to the rights and obligations of the City of Côte Saint-Luc in the file of the Superior Court of Quebec, bearing number 500-05-07-22-99-025. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc's insurers at that time intervened in this action. Whereas on January 1st, 2006, the City of Côte Saint-Luc substituted itself to the City of Montreal as defendant in the action in accordance with the adoption of the decrees of October 19th, 2005. Whereas the City and its insurers have undertaken discussions and have reached an agreement. Be it resolved to adopt the agreement intervened between the City and its insurers with regards to the action filed against the City of Côte Saint-Luc in the file of the Superior Court of Quebec bearing number 500-05-07-22-99-025, and to authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign on behalf of the city of Côte Saint-Luc the agreement negotiated between the city and its insurers with regard to the action filed against the city of Côte Saint-Luc in the above mentioned file. So basically what this is a case where, do I have a seconder?
Well, you just wanted to explain it, it's fine, but it's moved by
Okay.
Councilor Baku and seconded by Councilor Erly. Now is discussion, correct?
Okay, so I'm just going to explain briefly. So basically, this is the action which was taken with regard to Meadowbrook. The insurer voluntarily intervened in 2002, I believe it is. It says 2002, yeah. And at that time, they reserved their rights to withdraw from the case because they didn't have to intervene. They just intervened voluntarily. And now they're exercising their rights to withdraw from the case in consideration of an indemnity which they are paying to the city. Thank you.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously, and move to the next item, which is item C, adoption of the regular council meeting sitting schedule. Councilor Baku.
Oh, me again? Okay.
Yeah.
So be it resolved that, oh bon, je vais lire en français, attendu que le conseil doit fixer un horaire pour ses séances mensuelles ordinaires, il est résolu que le conseil autorise par les présentes la tenue de ses séances mensuelles ordinaires pour l'année 2021 selon l'horaire des séances annexées au présent à l'annexe A pour faire partie intégrante du procès-verbal. Et l'annexe A donne toutes les dates du calendrier des séances du Conseil 2021. Je pense que ça va être disponible sur le site web.
Et puis, je rajouterai également qu'un avis public sera publié avec les dates des séances du Conseil pour l'année 2021.
Ah, OK. D'accord.
Merci, Maître Schechter. C'est proposé par le conseiller Baku et appuyé par le conseiller Erly. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres discussions? Okay, everyone in favor for our sitting schedule? All right, put up your hand, Mitch. So, Councilor Gajewski, are you in favor? So that means that we all have to be there on those dates. And now we'll move to the next item, which is Parks and Recreation, item number 9B. Councilor Kajaski, it's a notice of motion and a tabling, so you do it yourself. Councilor Kajaski.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2558, entitled bylaw 2558, creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2020 and winter of 2021, will be presented at a later meeting for adoption.
And you table it.
I hereby table draft bylaw 2558, entitled bylaw 2558, creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2020 and winter of 2021.
Thank you, Councilor Kajaski. And now we move to item number 10, which is Public Works. Councilor Benizri, approving of an extension of a consulting agreement for Matthew Saud, which is your arborist. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, par la présente, approuve la prolongation de l'entente de consultation entre la ville et SAE Incorporé pour les services de Mathieu Zod, technicien arboricole, pour un montant additionnel de maximum de 38 247 $, plus les taxes applicables jusqu'au 31 décembre 2020. Que le certificat du trésorier numéro 20-0091 a été émis le 8 septembre 2020 par le trésorier de la ville attestant la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites. Que la conseillère générale de la ville soit par la présente autorisée à signer tout document nécessaire pour donner suite à cette prolongation.
Merci. Proposé par le conseiller Benizri, appuyé par le conseiller Cohen. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions? No, I think it speaks for itself. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to Urban Development Engineering Division, item number 11, Councillor Torgman. Item A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the purchase of flashing pedestrian crosswalks and stop signs to Signalisation Qualitech Inc. for a total amount of $31,803.10 plus applicable taxes. The Treasurer Certificate number 02-0085 dated August 18, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Burko, I believe. Let's see. Okay. Any discussion?
So this is for two sets of, a set of flashing crosswalk signs that'll be placed on Cavendish at the overpass to increase pedestrian safety at certain crosswalks, as well as having two flashing stop signs installed at Kildare, also increasing pedestrian safety and obviously vehicular safety.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously, and we move to item number 11B. Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, just getting to the page. Que les conditions prévues à l'entente cadre entre l'UMQ et Énergir soient et adoptées telles que soumises, que les copies de cette résolution soient transmises à l'UMQ et à Énergir.
Proposé par le conseiller Torchman et appuyé par le conseiller Burko. Oui, your mic's off, but that's okay. I saw you shake your head, but I think you need to put the mic on. Any discussion?
I second.
Any discussion?
This is an agreement that the UMQ has negotiated with Énergir, which is formerly Gazmet. It's if when any works are done by Énergir, they'll transfer certain, share the costs of any major renovations, but they'll also forward a 2.5% to the city for the cost of their works in the city. So it's the benefit of the city.
Okay, so moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Move to item 11C. Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby approves the change order to CMO pursuant to tender C-11-17-22 in the amount of $340,000 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses be financed by the city's water financial reserve under project number WFR 2020-UP1. The Treasury Certificate number TC-20-0090 dated September 8, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Burko. Any discussion?
This is for a phase of replacement of water pipes following testing that happened this summer. Obviously, a lot of the testing was halted because of COVID. So this represents another 20-odd service connection changes.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. We move to urban development. Councillor Burko, 5619 Hartwell. Councillor Burko.
Thank you.
Oh. Somehow you're mute. You're mute.
Hi, thank you. I think Councillor Lee is going to share his screen so that the public can follow along with us. And I am going to read the resolution with regard to Hartwell. It's property located at 5619. Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received August 10th, 2020, showing the addition of a proposed one-story rear extension to an existing detached single-family dwelling on lot 156-1916 at 5619 Hartwell, and prepared by Mr. D. Raziz, architect for the Planning Advisory Meeting of August 18th, 2020, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. So, as can be seen,
Moved by Councillor Burku and seconded by Councillor Ben-Isri. Any discussion? Go ahead.
so as can be seen on the screen, this is a second-story rear extension, which is hardly, well, it's not visible from the street, actually. So that's something that was appreciated by the PAC. It's very discreet. It's in the back, and it was well received by the Urban Planning Committee and approved by Council.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And we move to minor exemptions, 591 West Luke. Councillor Burku.
Yes. Okay, so I'll read this one in French. Il est résolu que conformément aux dispositions du règlement G18 005 qu'une demande de dérogation mineure concernant une propriété localisée au 591 West Luke, lot 129 0639, soit et par les présentes approuvées, de tout tel que plus amplement décrit ci-dessous. La demande vise à permettre qu'une habitation unifamiliale isolée, existante et construite en 1955 sous le permis numéro 94 d'être localisée à 12,36 pieds de la ligne de terrain du côté sud-est face au chemin Magnolia, au lieu de la marge de recul avant secondaire minimum requise de 15 pieds.
Proposé par le conseiller Burku et appuyé par le conseiller Erdely.
Right. So this is a classic case of a house that was built in 1955. So right at the beginning of the new construction in Côte Saint-Luc, and is 12 feet from the property line instead of being 15 feet from the property line. So really a minor exemption.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. We move to 5619 Hartwell, the minor exemption. Councillor Burku.
Okay, so this minor exemption is to legalize a rear setback, and I will read it. It's a little bit longer. That in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located 5619 Hartwell being is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow for an existing single-family detached dwelling built in 1972 under permit number 3079, the construction of a proposed one-story rear extension to be located at 25 feet 2 inches from the rear land line instead of the minimum required rear setback of 30 feet, and 10 feet from the southeast side land line instead of the minimum required setback of 12 feet, to be located as well at 10 feet from the southeast side land line instead of the minimum required setback of 12 feet. So once again, these are exemptions to the setback rules, and it's a question of a few feet, which are, so it's 1 or 2 feet difference, and so we are agreeing to approve it.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Ben-Isri. This is Hartwell, minor exemption. Good. Any other discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? So it's carried unanimously. We move to 5622 Palmer. Councillor Burku.
Okay, second. 1 second. Oh, here. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So be it resolved that in accordance with provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5622 Palmer, lot 105-2667 be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request in order to allow for an existing single-family detached dwelling built in 1955 under permit number 98 to be located at 11.02 feet from the northwest side property land line facing Chemin Guelph instead of the minimum required secondary front setback of 15 feet, and at 5.9 feet from the southeast side property land line instead of the minimum required setback of 6.5 feet. the whole in accordance with the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217, Annex B, Zone RU18.
Thank you, Councillor Berkouw, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion?
Again, a house that was built in 1955 under a permit and where the setbacks are a little bit short. And so we are legalizing these setbacks, I guess, because the property owner wants to sell the property. And it's considered to be a minor exemption.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? So it's carried unanimously. And now we move to item number 13, which stands at the Aglo. Councillor Cohen.
I was having trouble with that mute button, so sorry. I so move, Mr. Mayor, that council take the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in October 2020 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held in October 2020, based on the information to be presented during these meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? So we are carried unanimously, and we're going to move on to the other business. The other business, second question period. Maître Prévost.
Yes, just one comment for second question period. If residents want to submit a question, they should refresh the YouTube page, and then the chat will be open. So if we could wait a few minutes, I will look at the live chat and submit any questions if we get any.
Meantime, I do want to reiterate my wish for everybody to have a very healthy, happy New Year of the Jewish faith, and for everyone else in our community to enjoy the end of this beautiful season. We're moving into the fall. It's a beautiful period of time. Enjoy the color of the leaves changing, and be good to your neighbors, be safe, and hopefully we'll all be blessed with good health and good results with respect to a vaccine coming one day soon, and the ending of COVID-19. But in the meantime, we're all in this together, and I'm sure we'll be leaders, as we have been, at keeping the virus at bay in our city, and hopefully it will follow throughout the province and our country. Maître Prévost, are there any questions?
There's no questions at this time.
So I will call for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Torgman, seconded by Councillor Sabag. All in favor?